Welcome to another edition of Enterprise Channel. My name is Alan Tan. Cloud computing has been a much discussed topic for the last couple of years. What is it? What does it bring to the business? Who benefits from it? With us here today is Mr. Zane Adam. He is General Manager for Microsoft Azure and Middleware. Zane, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I have a few questions. The first lot is, there are lots of legacy applications running business-critical applications today. Why would a company want to take the risk and move to the cloud?
I don't think companies plan or should plan cloud computing by thinking about which mission-critical application am I going to move. This is a journey. We are in the early part of cloud computing, and there are certain workloads that are easier, like web front-end, databases, and things of that nature, which would and should move first. As cloud computing evolves, and the cloud itself is capable of handling mission-critical applications, that's when mission-critical migration will happen. That is a few years away. It's nothing to do today. So I think the right way for companies to think today is looking at their workloads, the application they're running, which applications are candidates to move to the cloud, and start moving them and taking advantage of the scale of the cloud and reducing their capital expenditures. And then, slowly but surely, migrating other applications as the right feature and fundamentals of the cloud map so they can still get the same service benefits that they're getting running their mission-critical applications.
So what is the path to the cloud for a .NET environment?
So there's two ways to think about that one. For applications that are on-premise, moving to a hosted environment, where the target environment, the hosted environment is the same, so Windows, the application can be ported or migrated without any re-architecture needed, because both platforms are exactly the same. In the case of where you have Windows Server and .NET environment on-premise, and you're moving to our Windows Azure environment, which is a little bit different architecture, in that case, there are some re-architecturing needed, tweaking of the application, so it's suitable for Azure platform. And we've seen the following happen, and I'll give you some APAC examples actually. NCS, which is one of the local companies here, owned by Singtel, I believe, they have ported applications to Azure, SMS Gateway, and also a couple other applications without any issues, from on-premise Windows to public cloud on Windows Azure. So it's all doable, and it all takes a little bit of time and not re-architect. And that's the beauty of the cloud, at least in our platform, that .NET is the foundation for developers, fundamental for developers to use when they're writing the cloud application and the tools that we have in Visual Studios.
Now, for enterprises with multi-country operations and whose businesses are highly regulated and probably have restrictions as far as data movement outside of the country is concerned, what is the option for them?
There are a couple of different options. One, if the data centers, we have data centers in multiple countries. If it's only about the data should stay within a country, in some cases, our data centers are there, so that question is answered. In the cases where that is not possible today, well, I go back to the original mission-critical question that was asked. If you think about it that way, there are certain workloads within a banking environment which they can move because it's not fully connected to the data that needs to is regulated data. So front-end web applications, applications that are not regulated by government, those kind of things can be moved off. And then the other applications move off when the requirements are met. For example, there is a local data center, either by Microsoft or a partner, or the regulations are met in some other ways as their regulations evolve themselves, because some of the regulations will evolve because cloud computing is going to get more and more traction.
Now, this is a two-pronged question. Why would a mid to large enterprise consider moving to the cloud? And conversely, why would a small, medium enterprise consider moving to the cloud?
The value prop of cloud, and I'll use Windows Azure as the Microsoft offering. The value prop is we will run your infrastructure. You focus on developing the right application and running your business. That value prop lands for large businesses or enterprises, same with medium enterprises. And what it means is the companies don't have to buy their own hardware, their own networking, hire the people to operate that. All that can be moved off to Microsoft in the case of Windows Azure. And that is an immediate benefit, just not only from a personnel and expense perspective, but also on the balance sheet, because the CapEx converts to OpEx. Then when I take that down to the SMBs, small businesses are reluctant to invest in complex technologies. Like running servers is not what the small business wants to do. They don't want to run a server house. They want to get the business done. And that's why they would move to the cloud. But their move to the cloud is the following. They're basically what they'll do is they'll consume the applications that are in the cloud. Since today they don't have data centers and many servers to begin with, they don't actually make the move. Their next application purchase or consumption is just off of the cloud, which brings technology much faster to the small businesses.
There are people suggesting a middle ground between on-premise and cloud-based. Is this hybrid model a halfway house, if you will, to ease companies transitioning 100% to the cloud?
It can have dual purposes. One, a transition path instead of a halfway house for people who want to move to the cloud and they want to start experimenting and moving piecemeal their application and environment. That's one. The other one on the hybrid could be applications that burst. I'll give you an example. Payroll. Most payroll function needs rapid resources, so computing power, just before they start printing out the paychecks. So if you're a large company, once or twice in a month, you have a peak. But if you don't use the cloud, you have to buy all your servers and configure them for the peak. Now, if there was a hybrid model, like you're using, the day-to-day work on the application is on-premise, running in your data center, but in those days where it requires a lot more compute power, the extra compute power can come from the cloud and then back down again. So the peak and burst scenarios actually are enabled by this hybrid model, as you speak. That's one of the benefits of the cloud.
And finally, are the prevailing security concerns around cloud computing justified?
But my view is all security concerns are always justified. It's justified in the sense it's important. We should all look into it and ensure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Having said this, the core is the following. Is the data in the cloud less secure than data on-premise? And that is something the industry struggles with. And this happens every time there is a new technology or a computing or paradigm shift. That's what cloud is bringing in. All the legitimate concerns, the industry will keep addressing it because cloud computing will keep getting traction that way. So we should all be vigilant about security and address the concerns that are there. And I believe all concerns are always legitimate, so we can have a good and rational discussion about that.
Zane, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
That was Mr. Zane Adam, General Manager for Microsoft Azure and Middleware. My name is Alan Tan for Enterprise Channel, and thank you for joining us today.